Okay, this is my last try. And I'm so sorry, guys. I'm waiting for the Instagram go live thing to say I can go live, and then I can click that, and then we can carry on from there. We can muddle our way through. Okay, this is my absolute last try at this. I have now changed out all of my cords. I changed which computer I'm using. I've changed the camera. I've changed the microphone. I'm hoping beyond hope that this actually works and it sticks. Thank you so much for anybody else that has that has been with me on these lives for the 5th time tonight. We're hoping that this actually works. I've got a lot of news to cover, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. Okay. Let's giddy up. So first thing, as always, I like to know where people are coming in from. I saw somebody earlier from Grand Rapids, somebody from Lansing, somebody from Canton, somebody from Royal Oak, which is where I live currently right now. And I appreciate you guys for sticking in with me through all of this stuff. I'm going to start the way that I always do. I love class participation, so feel free to throw your comments in. I will read them out loud as long as they are one of two things. One, they are not offensive. They're not racially charged. They're not any of those things. Any of those things I have no need for or room on this Zoom. Respectfulness is key. Second thing with it is, what was the second thing? Oh, yeah, that's right. I love when people push back on me on my own opinions. So the format is I'm going to read what the story is. I'm going to tell some facts about it, just objective facts. And then I like to get into a little bit of a discourse or a healthy debate, not a rude or mean debate, as always. And I love when people tell me I'm wrong. I really do. I really like to be an informed constituent, an informed individual, and I hope you do too, which is why I do these lives every Thursday night. And without much more ado, we're going to try this again. Oh, I got Vero Beach, Florida in the house. Wow. That's really cool. Hey, how is the weather in Vero Beach? Because here in Michigan, we had like one day at 43 degrees, which was glorious. Actually got an outside run in, go figure. And then other than that, it's just been like freezing. I mean, we're back to below freezing again. And I heard it's going to get cold over the weekend, but I'm not entirely sure. But Vero Beach, that sounds like a place I really want to be right now. Really, it is. Okay, let's continue on. All right, so first story. And again, I will put you, if you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, I'll put your comments on the screen. If you're on Instagram, I have to read them. So sorry about that. 75 and dry. That sounds like a dream right now. That sounds like I don't even need like a light coat. Like I'm in flip-flops, I'm in shorts. Anybody, my Michigan people, how does 75 and dry sound right now? Okay, so let's start out with the story that I tried to do, but then the mic kept on getting off. And that is, of course, I got to lead with the Gordie Howe Bridge versus Trump. So Trump has said he wants to delay the opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge. It's not going to open without specific concessions from Canada. Somebody said it sounds like my ex-wife. That's actually really funny. I appreciate that comment. And that's what I mean by a comment that contributes, not one that's actually offensive, although it's probably offensive to like one person. Okay, so Trump said the Gordie Howe Bridge is not going to open without concessions from Canada. And what concessions is he looking for? So number one, he wants the U.S. to own 50% of the bridge. But here's the problem with that. The U.S. does own, Michigan, in fact, owns 50% of the bridge. So this bridge has been through a lot. So to give a little bit of a backstory, Governor Rick Snyder did the final negotiation and finally got this thing pushed through. And how he did it, because this thing was embattled in court battles for literally a decade with the Maroon family owning the Ambassador Bridge and not wanting to give up potential revenue. They spent tens of millions of dollars in court costs and actually advertising to the Michigan public saying this bridge is not a good thing, it's a bad thing. But finally, Rick Snyder did get through during his time as governor. And how he did it was he convinced Canada to foot the entire $4.7 billion bill for this bridge. Now, the bridge itself has been under construction for the better part of 10 years and is finally set to open this spring. The bridge itself is actually complete. It's just undergoing final testing for safety, and then they were looking to open in the next 2 months. The other concession that, of course, President Trump wants is he wants more of an equilibrium with trade. Right now, we import much more than we export from Canada, and he wants China to start cutting trade with, Canada to start cutting trade with China. And again, guys, tell me your opinions on what you feel and how you feel about all of this. This is where the news becomes an actual discussion and a discourse. Now, that said, once the loan is paid back, the there was a $4.7 billion loan done by Canada that they're paying interest on. Once the loan is paid back through the profits of the tolls of this bridge, Michigan is going to receive 50% of the profit. So that's already in place. The other couple of concessions that President Trump is looking for, I'm not sure he's going to get, but we're all hoping that the bridge does do a speedy open. Why? Because Canada is still our number one trading partner in the world. It's not China. It's not Japan. It's not Germany. It's Canada. And over the Ambassador Bridge, there's over $200 billion a year worth of goods. The Ambassador Bridge itself, with our number one trading partner, constitutes 25 to 30% of our trade going back and forth between Canada and the US, just at one point. And it's overwhelmed and it's overtaxed, hence the Gordie Howe Bridge. It's also estimated that there are 2,000 healthcare workers that cross the Ambassador Bridge to get to work every day, people that are living in Windsor, but they work in the US. And they have complained about long wait times and it getting muddled up. So how's this going to play out? Nobody knows. But I do know this, because this was the other headline that came out. Here we go, guys. Hours before Trump said he was going to delay the opening of the bridge or just won't open at all, Matt Maroon, which is Matty Maroon's son and heir and current owner of the Ambassador Bridge, met with some top key Trump officials. That kind of tells you something, because again, the Maroon family spent tens of millions of dollars trying to get this bridge to never happen because of their ownership in the Ambassador Bridge. Also, fun fact, this was the family that owned, or Matty Maroon owned, Michigan Central train station for many years and just let it go and dilapidate until Ford finally bought it and started redoing it. Okay, let's move on to our next topic. I think we've hit the bridge quite enough. This is really interesting to me. Okay. So Michigan's bottle return. This is something that's actually just coming to the forefront of the news right now. Michigan's bottle return is at the lowest point it's been since the start of the 10-cent bottle return. So let me give you some context and some backstory. In 1976, the state of Michigan voted, like the voters actually voted, for a 10-cent bottle return put on every pop bottle or can. So you pay an extra 10 cents per bottle or can. I think we all know this. And then you get it back when you return them. Right now, from that moment in 1976, right up until 2000, we were above 90% return, 90% return rate. So 90% plus of the bottles and cans that people were buying from Kroger or Meijer or even the gas station were being returned, and the deposit, of course, being returned back to them. Now, today, between 2020 and 2026, that has dropped from 98% at its high point in 1993, 98%, all the way down to 70% and is continuing to fall. People are opting to put their bottles and cans either in the garbage or in the recycle bin versus actually returning them to the store. This has caused a number of things to happen, as kind of a domino effect. Number one, that means last year in 2025, there were $116 million worth of deposits that were unclaimed. 116 million just sitting with the state. Now, once the year closes out, there is a money swipe of all that money. And here's the breakdown. 75% of it goes towards an environmental protection fund, right? Because the original concept of the bottle return was that people were just pitching bottles out their windows down the freeway, and it was literally just litter everywhere. I mean, and at that time, and I remember seeing stories of it when I learned about this growing up in school, that you can see literally hundreds of bottles on the freeway sides. 25% of it went to the servicers, the retailers, the people that had to take the bottles back, like your Krogers and your Meijers, to help offset some of the costs, especially today, the tech costs. Now, what has actually happened? So during the COVID pandemic in 2020, not only were, of course, the grocery stores closed and grocery stores were not taking bottles back, but all the recycling centers in Michigan were closed. That's problem number one. So we got out of the habit of saving those bottles and taking them back. Problem number two is that it has literally been the same 10-cent return policy since its inception in 1976. In today's world, if we were going to account for inflation, that would be 50 cents per bottle or can, not 10 cents that the grocery store should be charging, putting with the state, and then returning back to the people. But look at it from a different point of view. If we do it, let me grab some. I just want to make sure I've got the math right, so I'm not doing head math here. Yeah. So if we do, let's say, a 12-pack of Coke. If we do a 12-pack of Coke with a 50-cent bottle return, that's an extra $6. So places like Coke and Pepsi and the beer distributors do not want that, of course, to increase. The state legislature does not want that to increase because they're currently swiping almost $90 million every year into an environmental fund that they can use for projects to go clean up things like contaminated soil in Detroit, for example, or drinking water in Flint, for example. That is not there before. In addition to that, this was actually voted on by the Michigan public. That makes it really tricky because if there are going to be any changes to this, it's only going to come one of two ways. We're going to have to vote on a new proposal, which is hard to get on the ballots right now with so many other proposals on the ballots. That's number one. Or number two, 75% of the state legislature is going to have to vote in favor of a change because that constitutes overturning a Michigander's vote, right? Going around them, so to speak, because the Michigan public had voted on it at first. Also, to add a little context to it, and let me know what you guys think about this, by the way, if we should do away with the policy, if we should revamp the policy, if we should increase how much we're charging for a deposit. Let me know what you guys think as well in the comments. I got one that says we should increase the deposit right away. Two that says we should increase the deposit. And I'm not sure that I disagree with that. But the last little bit with this thing is there are only 10 states that have bottle return policies. And up until 2020, for every single year of the 40 years that have been in place, 50 years that have been in place, we had been number one as far as highest percentage of bottle returns. That is one thing Michigan has been consistently number one at. And now, of course, we have dropped into number 6 or number 7 place at a measly 70% bottle return rate. I mean, like a lot of people, I feel like they just look at the 10% as just like kind of a tax on beverages, which was not the intention, but I think that's how people are looking at it. But let me know what you think in the comments. Should we be revamping this? Should we just do away with it? Do we even need this anymore? Is this antiquated? Are there enough people and enough communities with recycling and proper garbage disposal that we don't even need this because the litter isn't even a problem anymore? Now, the others are a nickel. That's a great point. So other states were a nickel. Again, half of the dime, which is part of the reason why we had such a high adoption rate, whereas other states had hovered in that 80% range for so long. That's a really great point. Okay, let's move on to the next story. And yes, I'm definitely going to be cutting a few stories tonight because I don't want to run too late. But of course, we cannot seem to do a live nowadays without talking about data centers. And we've got a couple data center related stories this week. So the number one is the massive OpenAI $7 billion data center is officially moving forward. Plans are set, plans are in place. This one's the one that's over in Saline, not the one over in South Lyon. This is a 1.4 gigawatt data center. Let me put that in perspective. 1.4 gigawatts of data means that they're literally using over 10% of all of the energy that DTE produces on a yearly basis, which is crazy to me. Now, this is also a closed loop data center. So here's the difference between the two, basically the two types of data centers as far as how you provide water to it. There's evaporative and there's closed loop. So evaporative means that the water literally just evaporates and goes away. It's not reused a second or a third or a fourth time. It just goes, and it uses a tremendous amount of water. And we've seen reports of even low water pressure coming out of places like St. Louis because of the older style evaporator ones that Microsoft had put in there. Closed loop means that we're going to fill that data center with, in this case, 10 million gallons of water. It closes, and then we have to refill it with less than that per year because much less than that actually goes away and evaporates because it's closed loop. It runs through the ground, cools itself off, and then goes back in. So we're going to refill it with 8 million gallons of water per year. So from a water perspective, that's much better. Is it great? No, but it is much better. Here, let me put a little perspective on this as well. And tell me what you guys think about these data centers, by the way. I want a couple of comments on this one. Putting that in perspective, the average Michigan golf course takes 40 million gallons of water per year to irrigate. 40 million gallons. So this is, a fifth of that, let's call it. But it's still a lot of water. It's still a lot of water. Now, they're also saying that it's 0.4% of the Great Lakes Water Authority's overage that they're expecting because they produce actually more water, but they take it out of the Great Lakes. They're producing more water every year than what the residents use and the office buildings use and apartment complexes use. But how many times do we do a 0.4% until it becomes significant? I have 4 people in the comments right now saying that we need to abandon data centers in Michigan and they should not be allowed. Now, what's also interesting about this is that there are a lot of cities right now where they can literally not stop a data center from going in because of the current legislature and current building and permitting. We're actually going to talk about that one in a minute. And there are some other cities that put moratoriums on even discussing data centers. So Northville said, we're not even going to allow a discussion about a data center until after 2026. Howe said, hey, give us 6 months because we need, as city council, we need to relook at our own zoning and permitting to see if we need to make some changes before we even talk about it. Chesterfield Township, same thing. They said, we're not willing to look at anything in 2026 until at least 2027 because we've got some work to do as far as revamping our code. Yes, that's a great point. It's not always the water, it's the power needs. And this specific one, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I'll go into a little more detail. This specific one is going to take 1.4 gigawatts of power to power. That is over 10% of all the power that DTE actually makes in a year. That's also 1,050,000 households worth of power. 1,050,000. That's like literally 40% of all of Metro Detroit households. Right? Yes. Okay, great. There's 4 million people in Metro Detroit, but there's families and kids and all that stuff. But that's why it's also 40%. It is a massive number. Yes, I agree. Self-performing power sources only. And we saw that actually last week but they did it wrong. They really messed it up. So last week we saw a story where there was a data center that was proposed where it would be a self-source power. They were primarily going to use solar power with a potential of using a little bit of wind. And then as well, it was going to use a rain collection system and a cylinder system to collect water, an oversupply of water. So when they needed more water, it was 100% self-reliant. So it would not be taking any water, would not be taking any electricity. The problem with that being, they sent the email to 8 different cities in Metro Detroit saying, hey, who wants this project in your backyard? Friday at 11:32 a.m. with a deadline on Martin Luther King Day of 4 p.m. City offices weren't even open. And of course, none of the 8 cities even responded to the email that they had received. So that project moved on out of state. Not saying it's a good thing, not saying it's a bad thing, just saying it's a thing, and that there are alternatives to using the DTE grid and water from the Great Lakes Water Authority. And of course, we got to talk about the next one, which is Van Buren Township's Project Cannoli. I don't know where they even get these names from. So this is a 3-building data center on 250 acres. And a lawyer from representing them, and also another lawyer from the zoning commission says they are legally obligated to approve this project. Van Buren has no standing to not approve this project. So a little bit more about this. The residents and the citizens of Van Buren, they did take to the streets. They did collect over 1,400 signatures on a petition to not approve this project. But here's the problem. A lot of our zoning laws and our zoning rules and our zoning guidelines are antiquated. They were made in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, sometimes even in the 60s. And we didn't have things like data centers back then. We didn't have these big monstrous things that were taking and sucking up all these resources. They just didn't exist. We had like very small data centers. In fun fact, there are over 200 data centers currently operating in Michigan. They're just very small and they don't use very many resources. That's why this has not been a problem until now. So this one is going to be using 1 full gigawatt of electricity. Okay. Users of it include Wayne State University. Okay. And this one is going to be using somewhere around 6 million gallons of water per year. And again, guys, every little bit backs up. I've got another one saying mini nuclear plants. And I do agree with that. I agree that we need to start looking at some alternative forms of energy like nuclear power, which if you are anywhere near my age, you probably remember all of the press and the fanfare saying that nuclear power was dangerous and we couldn't store the finished materials and it would take 1 million years for them to decay and all of those things. There was a lot of rhetoric back then coming out of the coal industry because the coal industry was really playing on things like 3 Mile Island, the eruption in Chernobyl. There we go, Chernobyl. And they're really dialing up safety, the public safety concerns over nuclear power way further than they should have been. Now, if you look at places like Europe is slated, last year, they slated 28 new nuclear power plants to be opened. And that is because they want to reduce their dependency on natural gas from places like Russia. Right now, about half of all the natural gas that Europe uses is piped in from Russia. And they feel like with the current political turmoil and with what's going on with Ukraine and everything else, that they don't want to be at risk of half of their homes going unheated. So Europe has active plans to put in literally almost 30 nuclear power plants, offset, of course, data centers, but of course, households. right? I think that'd be a very smart thing for us to look at a little bit deeper here in the United States. I know DTE has an agreement. I don't know what the details are with Microsoft regarding their data centers and powering up one of the older nuclear power plants that is currently decommissioned and offline, revamping it, re-outfitting it with new I guess processes. I don't know what it'd be, processes, gadgets, tech, computers, whatever that takes to be able to power their data centers that they're planning and putting in Michigan. But yes, I do agree with you. We need to look at some alternative data energy sources that's not going to drain the grid. Now let's move on to the next story. So Dexter students are the latest among many Metro Detroit high school students that have now performed a walkout protesting ICE. So Dexter students walked out 20 minutes before the bell rang. And then they end up marching a mile down the street and doing their own protest. This was led by, I forgot the gentleman's name, young gentleman, seems like a nice enough guy on the news, but the student body head, right? So this is another in a series of ICE outs or walkouts or whatever that looks like. So here the question becomes, yep, there it is. 200 Dexter high school students walked out of school 20 minutes early on Monday, February 9th. They stood outside the school until the bell rang, then marched over to Monument Park. Dexter is one of dozens of places across the country and here in Michigan where they're protesting ICE. So here is also, so there's two sides of the story. So the one side of the story, one bit of concern is how much school are we going to allow these kids to miss for their political activism, especially seeing as they're not old enough to vote. So there is some concern coming from school districts and parents alike saying, hey, at some point in time, we have to draw a line and say, guys, you got to stay in school. And then the other side of it is how do we support them in their political activation? Not saying anything positive or negative about ICE in this instance, saying, let me phrase this differently. With the news and the media, the way it's been for the last 20 or 30 years, where most news and media are owned by greater companies that either are on the right or the left, and in America, at least, things are it seems like things in the media go one of three ways. And that again is why I do these lives, because I like to run straight at a point, facts only. There's no money coming in from anybody. I don't have political donors or sponsors or any of that stuff. I'm just a guy in Metro Detroit that likes to report the news and loves to sell some real estate. So if you need real estate bought or sold, give me a call. That's what we do. Residential, anywhere in the 5-county area. There's my shameless plug for the night. Moving on. So with the news so focused on either leaning to one side or the other, or employing things like sensationalism through their headlines, like exacerbating a situation to make it seem either worse than it is or better than it is this something we want to encourage of our youth? Being a little more politically active, being a little more informed, being a little more read in? That's a hard question. I'm not a parent, so I can't say whether or not that's a thing that I would want until I cross that bridge. I've talked to several parents, and several parents have concerns about either missing school or they have concerns about suppression of freedom of speech, even at such a young age. So I think I can see it kind of going both ways. But let me know what you guys think as well. Okay. Next up, now this is interesting, and this is a good PSA. So there was an ICE impersonator at a Dearborn Kroger. An ICE impersonator went into a Dearborn Kroger and started questioning people, including an attorney, and saying, hey, I want to see your visa. What citizenship are you? Where were you born? And this gentleman was harassing just random people in a grocery store. 911 was called. Police got there. No one was there. Now, that said, I didn't know this until I actually read this article. ICE put out guidance back in October that there had been over 25 instances across the U.S. of ICE impersonators where they were wearing the mask. They were demanding demanding of people, where were they born? What citizenship are you? Do you have a visa? Do you have a passport? Do you have a social security card? Those types of things are actually happening. Now, the going thought is from the ICE directives or the ICE, information that they're giving to the FBI and local sheriff and police departments is that these people are doing it basically for one of two reasons from what they found from their detainees. They're either doing it because they're looking to get footage. So a lot of them are filming as they're doing this. They're looking to get footage to sensationalize on social media, or several of them are mentally ill and have mental issues. So according to the local 2 Dearborn people here, it seemed like that person was of the latter. Now, of course, the police didn't catch him. The guy ran out of the store before he could get caught. Even security couldn't detain the guy, the Kroger security. But just as an FYI, guys, these things are happening. And these people are not just, these ICE impersonators are not just going after people that look different from, let's call it me. They're asking literally anybody, including U.S. citizens, as they shouldn't, as they have no right to, for documentation. Okay, let's move on. There we go. All right, so Nicole Curtis, who has been with HGTV for 15 years and Rehab Addict, returns to HGTV back on last Wednesday. Very short stint for that one because I actually have a second story about Nicole Curtis. And she's flipping homes in Ferndale. She's flipping homes in Detroit now. She's got 2 rehab projects going on. One called the Doris House, which is very cool. I hope I got that name right. But I really like that she's bringing that focus and attention to Michigan. And I really like that she was bringing that focus and attention to the architecture that is in Detroit specifically, because Detroit is a beautiful city and it is the 2026 City of Design. Which is the first time a U.S. city has gotten the City of Design nomination, or whatever you want to call it, the award, since 2005, which was Miami, which is really interesting that they picked Detroit of all places. And unfortunately, Nicole Curtis also had a fall from grace very fast. So they aired her first 2 shows about her home and then was promptly fired for an offensive comment. She literally stupidly said the N-word during filming, which, I mean, guys, if you're asking to get fired, like if you want to quit your job, please don't do that. That's not the right way to do it. Just you write a letter, send an email to corporate. Don't get canceled. For the love of love. Because what if you want to do something in the future? Like, so the racial epithet was filmed on set during the filming of one of her previous shows about 2 years ago. And of course, HGTV wasn't going to let it go. So they did let her go. Frankly, as they should. There's my commentary on that one. Okay. There we go. That's the one that I wanted to cover because we have an abbreviated amount of time. So I'm going to run through the top stories. So there is a new exclusive golf club being planned near Ann Arbor over in Lodi Township that targets jet-setting members. Now, how are they defining jet-setting members? Well, first we got to look at the exclusivity. So this course is only going to have, where did it say it? There we go. It's going to be initially limited to 50 members. 50. That's it. 50. Not 500, not 5,000. 50, an entire golf course for 50 people, potentially up to 100. So the sister course, the course that's been around for a while, which is outside of Atlanta. Where's that at? Oh yeah, they did Oakland Hills as well. They did design. I want to make sure I get this right. I'm not going to get this right. There it is. Yep, rural Georgia. There it is. The Ahope Match Club. There we go, in rural Georgia. That one does have 100 members now. But check this out. We're talking exclusivity. What does that even sound or look like? So that country club doing the research, and that one being the sister club, because I can't find any data online of what this place in Ann Arbor is going to be charging for membership. I found out that this place in Georgia, owned by the same people, they charge up front $250,000 join fee. In addition to that, there's an over $100,000 a year membership fee. In addition to that, they charge $1,000 a night for a room and a $1,200 fee for a room if you are a non-guest or if you're a non-member guest of a member. That's a lot. I feel like I can go to the Farmington Hills Golf Club and for $36 play 12 or 18 holes off peak, or $72 play peak. So this is actually something that's really interesting in the United States. More and more of these style courses for the very exclusive top tier or top 1% are opening up. I'm curious to see where this is going to go. Also, as a side note, this is one of the first courses to open in Michigan in 30 years. Michigan, fun fact, we have more golf courses per capita for our citizens than any other state. So we are very golf course heavy already, which is also why a lot of courses either had shuttered over the last 15 years or they just didn't open. Plans were drawn, but they never opened. Northfield Hills being one of the last ones that actually ever opened. But there are a lot of courses being redone and revamped and upscaled and modernized this year. There are plans for at least 11 that I'm aware of that are undergoing that kind of special treatment. One of the ones that they did really well with was The one over in Plymouth, the Inn in St. John, that's what it is, where they, again, guys, throw your comments in. I'm happy to have a discussion about this stuff. So the Inn in St. John was a 27-hole golf course. They redid down to an 18-hole golf course and just elevated everything and made it a much better and a tougher course. So we're seeing more and more of that. Okay. This building, which has been vacant now for years, the Grand Circus Park building, which is owned by Suave Builders and Developers, which actually started out here in Livonia. Actually, I was at one of their developments today doing some shooting. I was down at the Northville Downs shooting the Downs, which they had a hand in developing, as well as Hunter Pasteur and Toll Brothers. So they're pivoting this from an apartment building to a hotel space. And there are some reasons for this. If we take a look at the buildings like, let's take a look at 313 Park, right? Where the Statler was, which the Statler's changing over and becoming a different kind of business right now. They partnered with a brewing company. And so they're bringing a whole different vibe. It's not going to be French American anymore. It's going to be something different, but that's at the base of the building. That apartment building is currently in foreclosure because here's what happened. In Detroit for a very long time, we had a lack of middle upper class housing, apartments, condos, houses, all of those things, right? And then all of a sudden it exploded and was everywhere, right? So now you got big developments like 303 Park where it's unsustainable for them to continue to get $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 a month rents because we didn't have the jobs follow suit. Usually it's jobs first, rent second. In this case, in Detroit, they actually did rents first, jobs second. So now we have some of these developments that are in hot water and in trouble. The other thing that they cited was that when they originally started developing this project back in 2019, their estimated cost to redo into apartments would be about $19 million in renovation costs. Now it's $27 million. And they know they can't raise the rents high enough to justify the $27 million, justify the inflation on both the labor and the material. But I, for one, am glad that something is going into that hotel or in that building, because that building has been vacant for a very long time. I don't want to come out and say it's become an eyesore, but it's kind of become an eyesore. So good that they're pivoting. I know it's not what they wanted. I know they're disappointed, but it looks like it's going to be about a 108 hotel room hotel. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Hopefully my oh, did it freeze? Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Yeah. What do you guys want to talk about while we're waiting for the next thing to come up? And of course, the window froze. And I hope that is not the end of the night because I had 2 or 3 stories I very specifically wanted to get to. I don't know. I might just do this live tomorrow as well. Anytime now. Okay, there we go. Now, if you could load for me, you'd be wonderful. Oh, yeah, buddy. There we go. All right. In the news again, not only was January freezing outside, it froze out home sales as well. So in Metro Detroit, we saw home sales fall 14.3% year over year, but we still saw a 3.1% value increase. Inventory levels are starting to go up, but not up at a rate that's going to stop appreciation yet. And that's the key. Now, how does that compare nationally? Nationally, we saw 8.1% fall in home sale. Now, before we start getting too disturbed about all that, that is actually pretty normal for Southeast Michigan. It is pretty normal to see the northern states that are colder, especially when they undergo any sort of a deep freeze, to see home sales fall as people say, you know what, I'm not going out in this and looking at homes. Right. So that's actually pretty normal. But that 3.1% raise in home values now makes the median sales price for the first time ever above $300,000. We just eclipsed the $300,000 mark for the first time in a very long time. In addition to that, as interest rates have been falling just a little bit, homes are becoming a little bit more affordable. So as the Perna team here, we are seeing properties not sit as long, start getting a little bit more multiple offers in it than before. And so my advice is for people that are looking for homes, give yourself that little bit longer runway that you had to in, let's call it late 2021, early 2022. We're not quite to the craziness of 2020 and early 2021. We're definitely not there. And we probably won't be there again where we see 30 offers on a home. But every time we put up a great home, we are seeing 4, 5, 6 offers. So that's starting to happen again. And buyers are starting to buy now in anticipation of interest rates coming down with Trump's new Fed chair pick. Kevin Walsh, I want to say his name was Walsh. If somebody knows, throw it in there. But with that new Fed chair that's going to be in late May, he is seeking to aggressively cut rates by a point by the end of the year. He's publicly just stated, like, that's just his stance, right? So there are buyers out there right now, they're saying, well, shoot, I would rather buy now and then refinance in 5 or 6 or 7 months than when everybody jumps into the market in August and September and then drives prices up 5 to 8%. So that's where that sits right now. Let's keep on going. And again, guys, throw your comments in. Okay. So we are looking at around an 800 million Medicare fall or reduction, should I say, by the federal government here in the state of Michigan. And this is not just a Michigan problem. All of the states with the new tax plan that went through, the big beautiful bill, has seen a reduction in funds being sent down to the state level for Medicare and Medicaid. Specifically in Michigan, Medicaid covers almost 1 million people. And how states are typically handling it they're either trying to reduce what they pay. They're trying to reduce what they pay, things like physicians and dentists and things like that, or they're trying to reduce the services or reduce the income limits for who can be on Medicaid. Those are the two ways that most states are approaching this. The issues with that, of course, are we're now leaving families in the dust that are just uninsured and can't afford insurance. If we start reducing who can get the insurance, like let's say we're increasing the income for the standard or whatever that looks like, or reducing the income, should I say. And then the second thing is, the more we run at the physicians and the more we run at the hospitals say, hey, we're going to require you to take less, the less likely they are to take it at all. Because why would you take Medicaid at less when you got a nice blue collar, juicy check coming in? Or not blue collar, but Blue Cross Blue Shield or United or Priority Health, right? I mean, these are not, I mean, the hospitals and doctors are not just hospitals and doctors, but they're also running a business and they've got to feed their families as well. So the way Governor Whitmer is approaching this is a little bit different. She is targeting increasing some of the excise taxes, also called sin tax, in the state of Michigan. So she wants to increase taxing nicotine, gambling, and also online advertisements. And here's how that works. She wants to increase how much is being taxed on a pack of cigarettes by a full $1. So currently, the state takes in $2 in tax. She wants it to be $3. She wants to increase vaping tax by 57%. And that sounds huge, but it's actually very, very low right now on that. She wants to increase gambling. So right now, a lot of online gambling, they're only paying after a certain number of bets done per year. She wants to reduce that to 0 and say the first 20,000 bets that are done per year will have a 25-cent tax. And then the rest of it will go up to 50 cents after that. And then, of course, she wants to put an 8% tax on online advertising. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What do you guys think? I mean, is this the way that we should be driving, or should we be going by the other states and saying, that's okay, we can let 200,000 extra people in Michigan go uninsured? Which I know it sounds terrible as I say it, but those are literally the options. And then let's take a look at a little more of the details. There we go. 4.7% tax on digital ad serves in Michigan. Increase in wholesale taxes on cigarettes from 1 pack to 2. 8% increase on online casino gambling revenue above $185 million. 57% tax on vapes and other nicotine delivery products like Zen, which are currently not taxed, and a new per wager tax, 25 cents on gambling platforms, first 20 million wagers per the year. I'm sorry, I said 20,000, 20 million, and then 50 cents for each bet above that to raise an estimated 39 million. Yeah. So that's a lot of potential tax. Now, that said, there has been a lot of opposition, right? She currently does not have the state legislature going her way. So the reality is there is a very good chance that this will just get, frankly, knocked down, and just a big fat no. By the way, this is not the first time that the governor has looked to implement most of these taxes. Most of these she tried back in 2023, also got a no when she was looking for additional ways to fund road work. So this is not the first time that these proposals have been there. It's just different as to where she wants the money to go. Okay, next up. Now, this is interesting. So In that same tax bill, she's proposing a $90 million tax break for Michigan seniors. So Michigan seniors would get back about 10% of their property taxes, right? Just like they used to. So back under Rick Snyder, two things changed. There was a credit in the amount of about 10% for Michigan seniors towards property taxes to offset the higher taxes, being on the fixed income, the reduced income, the pensions, and the SSI, so security incomes. The second thing they did was he taxed, actually, that's not true. He didn't tax, it was actually called a retirement tax. And it wasn't necessarily a retirement tax. It was that it became taxable. It was untaxed, but became taxable. There was no extra tax added. It was just the original state tax applied. So Governor Whitmer's kind of undone both those things. The ability to tax pensions and SSI is now not there anymore on the state level. And so now she's looking for a tax break for Michigan seniors. This would amount to about $345 per year. And then also with the credit, or also with not taxing pensions and Social Security, that saves seniors about $1,000 per year. So that's about $1,345 total, which is not nothing. It's not everything, but not nothing. I'm sorry. Was that $1,000 a year or $1,000 a month? Oh, $1,000 a month. So $12,300 a year total. Now that said, this would go through as a tax credit from the state, because the other concern the municipalities, of course, had is, hey, look, if you're reducing how much we're bringing in by this substantial number of people, this big group of seniors, that's going to hurt our schools, that's going to hurt our city services. So what this is actually they pay the tax, but then they get the credit on their state income tax. Okay. So it is actually a credit, not the cities lowering what they're taxing, which is actually a smart way to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna skip that one because I hit it. There we go. There we go. Oh, there he is. Justin Verlander has signed with the Detroit Tigers for a 1-year, $13 million contract. Now, it's interesting how the contract's laid out as well. He's going to get $2 million up front, and the other $11 million will be paid out over the next couple of years. Now, why would the Tigers do this? The guy is 43 years old. Well, he'll be 40. No, he's 43 years old. His birthday was a couple days ago. I know he's a little long in the tooth, but he was one of our best, if not our best pitcher in recent history, because we currently have the number one pitcher in the league. And this guy, Tariq, I cannot remember his last name. Somebody help me out with it. Who's our current Tiger pitcher that's amazing? So this guy is a killer, right? He is definitely one of the best in MLB, if not the best in MLB right now. He actually won a Cy Young Award last year, and he was the best pitcher as far as stats go last year. Justin Verlander is a workhorse pitcher. So this is a guy that can do over 100 innings in a season. And just like he just works and works and works with very little deviation from the result that we get. Now, this is where we know the Tigers are putting the money in for a Major League Baseball run. They want to go to the World Series. This is what that's signaling is. They want to go to the World Series. They think they've got the rest of the talent on the team with which to do so. They just needed that second pitcher. They have a third pitcher, but he's more of a rookie that's coming up through the ranks. He's very good. But they needed that second pitcher to come and back Tariq up, because you got to have at least two pitchers. One that's kind of the show boy, the one that can get the strikeouts, and then the other one that's the workhorse that can carry the innings, right? So that's him. So Verlander's coming back to Detroit, y'all, and he's coming back with 2 rings from the Astros, I believe. I don't remember what team, but he's already got himself 2 rings. He's going after a 3rd ring, because why would you take on that for no other reason than I want another ring, and I want it in Detroit where I played for 13, 14 years. That's right. And the first in a series of restaurant news, Mongolian Barbecue, the Royal Oak-based Mongolian Barbecue, has shuttered its last location in Michigan, and that was in Canton when they did not renew their lease last month. So Mongolian Barbecue was founded in 1992 right there in Royal Oak, Michigan. It was right on Main Street. I had friends in high school that used to work for that company. And then that one was closed back in 2019. At one point in time, there were over 30 Mongolian barbecues, half of them franchises across the nation, and then seriously, one in Mongolia. And now we're down to less than 10 is my understanding. And they're all franchise locations as the master parent company was sold again, and then just went out of business. So sorry, Mongolian Barbecue. I will miss you. And if you're unfamiliar with the concept, it was where you basically just served yourself. So you went and got a bowl, and you put all the stuff in that bowl, and you took the bowl over to a guy that would then cook the stuff in the bowl on a flat top and then put it back in the bowl, and then you go back to the table. Yep, you are literally serving yourself. But I liked it. It was good food. Anyway, there we go. I'm skipping the John Oliver coffee. We'll get to that next week. All right. So Zach Schuyler launches a luxury event space in Bloomfield Township. Zach Schuyler launches a luxury event space in Bloomfield Township, and this thing is going to be really cool. It's on a couple of 100 acres. It's got an amphitheater. They are working very hard to not cut down as many trees as possible. They've got a way you can drive. They're designing a way you can drive through it because they're thinking things like Cadillac product launches, Lincoln product launches, like those things will be here, right? You could have about 680 people walking the grounds. Now, who is Zach Schuyler and what gives him the gumption to do something like this? Well, this guy owns some of our favorite restaurants. He owns Como's. He owns 4 restaurants in the area. There we go. He owns Social in Birmingham, which just got a new manager and has done a great job bringing the people back in. He was the guy that saved Como's in Ferndale. Como's was closed permanently, and then he brought that back. He's got Bo's Grillery and Mex. So Mex is literally a Mexican place over on Telegraph Road, of course. And then Bo's is, okay, I can only describe Bo's in one way: French dip. They literally have the best French dip sandwich in all of Southeast Michigan. I will fight you right now. It really is the best. No joke, not even kidding. Actually, this thing was so good that when the price of meat kept going up and up and up, he took it off the menu. And then people were like, bro, what is going on? We don't want to come to this restaurant anymore because you don't have this. And he's like, look, guys, I'd have to charge $25 for the sandwich if I put it back on the menu. And the people said, charge $25. And so he did. And they did. And I did. If you get a chance, guys, go to Bo's. But this thing is actually going to be really cool looking. So it's got 270 degrees of windows, so you can really take in the beauty and the nature. That's the original design of it, with the amphitheater. So it's designed to be very immersive in nature, which I think is a very cool thing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this thing actually come to life. Okay, moving on. This one's a sad one. God, 6 decades. 6 decades. So Park's Old Style Barbecue is closing after 6 decades. They've got some extra pictures here that I actually want to bring up. There we go. So this is a 3rd generation barbecue spot. This is a place where people like my aunts and my uncles and my dad, factory workers, would go walk by, stop in, and go to. This thing doesn't even have a real kitchen, by the way, and it's been around for 60 years. Like, look at this thing. That's the kitchen. That's literally the kitchen. That is how old school barbecue goodness and love this is. Well, the original Edward Parks had passed away back in 2000. His son took it over, who had also passed away in 2002. And now his son is frankly getting up there in age and having some health issues. So it is officially, unfortunately, shutting down. Their last day was this past weekend, which is very sad because this is one of those Detroit staples that one would think just lasts literally forever. Okay, moving on. All right, so this is interesting. So I'm doing all the food news, by the way, right now, if you can't tell. Addict has a new Dubai chocolate silk pie that's $40, which is insane. Okay, so we all know Dubai chocolate is a thing that is driving up the cost of the pistachios and the specific chocolate that's made with it, because it's a very specific way that it's done. And so, of course, their cost is going to be $40. They only have it this weekend. It's more of a test run, right? The son, who currently owns and runs it and designs the pies, is putting out 200 of these over their 9 locations. Okay. And Addict has locations all over the place. I go to the one in Beverly Hills personally, which is the one where you can see Zach at every once in a while. And then also what I like about this is the history of Addict is his mother had started this company baking pies and selling them wherever she could, trying to help raise a family of 5. Or 5 kids. I love that so much. So Addict is a place that's near and dear to my heart. It's also my mother's favorite place for key lime pie. And it's also because of how this is made. Let me see. I know they set it down here somewhere. There we go. Now, what makes Dubai chocolate Dubanian is the use of pistachio paste and finely chopped phyllo strands known as Kadif. The phyllo is also known as phyllo. Kadif is also known as a bunch of other names. First combined with milk chocolate, mostly known as milk chocolate, in 2022. So one Dubai chocolatier marketed handmade bars as can't get enough of it, which is also a Lebanese dessert, which is very good, by the way. It's like cheese and sugar syrup. It's like the Middle Eastern version of like cotton candy in a way. It's very good. Had it multiple times. Okay. So the Free Press put out their list of the 2026 restaurants of the year. I've been to almost none of them. Tell me if you guys have been to any of them, because I'd be actually really curious. So we've got, what is this one? Oh, Enchanting Rose Fine Food in Detroit's 2026 Restaurant of the Year. I honestly have not been here. It looks great. Looks like a place I would definitely want to go. And then when we flip down to the bottom, let's see here. Also, best new restaurant was the Franklin Oyster Bar, which I have been to, which I actually like. They have good oysters. If you want also other places for good oysters, check out Bryan in Grosse Pointe, or check out Tallulah over in Birmingham, or Eddie V's actually does some nice East Coast, West Coast oysters most of the time as well. You've got Tacos Way in Detroit, which is over in Southwest. I've actually reviewed that place. That video got like 100,000 views. It's actually a really cool place, and the owner is amazing. Wilder's in Birmingham, which is a steakhouse in Birmingham. I've actually went to go twice when it first opened, but it was too busy. And of course, they didn't really want any social media presence. They didn't need it at the time. However, when I walk by now, it's only about 50% busy. Kind of curious about it. Still haven't been. If anybody's been to Wilder's, let me know. I've heard good things. Blue Goat over in Royal Oak, which I also haven't been to. If you know it, great, put it in there. Bar Gabby in Hazel Park, have not been. Shinnon, have not been. Detroit Jollof in Midtown, have not been. I feel like I haven't been anywhere, and I usually go everywhere. Very sad right now about this. Ariana Afghan Restaurant in Dearborn, Blue Kuna Smokehouse in Plymouth, which I also haven't been to, but I definitely want to try that place out. So this is the Free Press's list of best restaurants in 2026. If I can make some minor tweaks, I would. About 60% of this list I would replace. Just being completely candid with you guys. Okay. So here's something fun. Michael Bay, the director, and I'm talking like from Bad Boys and Transformers, is suing Cadillac for $1.5 million just one day after the Super Bowl, because he claims, and of course it's a pending lawsuit, he claims that he was hired by Cadillac to go in there and create their F1 commercial, finally unveiling like, hey, look, we're going to be an All-American, the first All-American F1 team, like All-American Engineers F1 team. And then he was fired. And then they said, you know what, Michael Bay, we don't need you. We don't want you, but we're going to steal your idea and we're going to use it as our own. That's what Michael Bay is claiming. I thought the commercial was fantastic, actually, during the Super Bowl. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see where I'm at on the screen because it's kind of behind it. But I'm going to drop a link in a comment after this on the various socials so you can watch it yourself. It's a very cool concept. But it's the first time Cadillac has actually performed in F1, which is a very big deal. Ford, of course, has performed before. And, of course, Ford and General Motors are going head-to-head on a lot of different races right now, like Le Mans and everything else. In addition to that, Cadillac has also secured 2 previous F1 winners as their primary and secondary driver, which is very cool, by the way. So they're really bringing the heat, and Cadillac is saying, hey, we don't want to just be part of this thing. We want to take this whole thing, which I think is very cool. Go Cadillac. I'm glad I drive a Cadillac. Okay, now, Resurgio. I got to talk about this. So Steve McGee, who is very cool, go find him and follow him on Instagram, please. He is a true lover of all things city of Detroit. He actually bought a $1 house in Detroit and restored it before it was a cool thing to do. He has been documenting the city for over 20 years, and he's now put this together as a love story or a love letter to the city of Detroit, which I think is very cool. He does a great job with the photography as well, by the way. If you ever have a chance to meet him because he is a cool dude. But his documentary or story about Detroit, and actually I'm going to play a little clip. I'm sure you can probably hear it. There we go. Let me put that right there. This is cool.
I think it's time we show this film to the world.
Detroit, the city of champions.
This is Detroit, Michigan. When I explain Detroit, this is thing that you have to wear on your back.
But this is not just showing a film. You see, I think the same disinvestment and decentralization that hit Detroit and the Rust Belt is happening in other areas of the country.
I don't think anyone knew just how remarkably challenging and devastating things were.
The world's lens stopped at those challenges, and so much strength was missed. Resurgo, it's the beginning of the horizon.
You want a house?
Was it $1?
This is our view.
People who work in these plants and these cars that build these engines, so that's why this city makes that sound.
And so when I seen the world slinging mud at it, it was like, yo, we create the narrative.
not the outside world.
Wherever there's destruction,
Our experiences here
there's always rebirth.
is really the fate of the entire United States.
I don't think Detroit's come back.
I feel like we're further ahead.
I honestly don't think it ever left.
Oh, so good. So good. Now, this is going to be playing, of course, it played January 30th. That's past. It's playing February 19th, March 5th, 26th, and April 16th at the Imagine Royal Oak. It's playing at the Farmington Hills Film Festival on March 7th and May 2nd up in Traverse City if you're up there for the French Coast Film Festival. Again, great guy. Steve McGee's a great dude. He does a really good job bringing a lot of perspective to the city. So what I like about him is he doesn't just show all of the good things that have happened in the city. He shows what it took for the city to get here, for the rebirth and the resurgence. So he's not just sugarcoating everything. He's showing the good, and he's picking up the rock and showing all the squiggly things underneath, which I really appreciate. This was a funny one. So Fairlane Mall finally took down its Christmas tree and put up in 2024, which is a sign of things to come. I'm so sorry I'm laughing at this. So here's the history. So Fairlane Mall was purchased, I believe, in 2023 by an investment group. They took out a loan for like $28 million to buy it. They put up a Christmas tree in 2024, and they ran out of money and stopped making payments. And so now it's been in foreclosure. So now that it's in foreclosure and receivership, another group has come over to take over and maintain it. And the very first order of business, of course, was take down that Christmas tree, because a lot of the tenants were really scared of what was happening, and it was driving away potential buyers, saying that, oh, this mall's probably going to close down because there's a Christmas tree sitting here in August. But they finally took it down. Under new management. Fairlane Mall looks good on you. And last but not least for the night, going back to Northville. So Northville, the battle is just starting. The battle for Main Street is just starting. So here's the history. During the pandemic, Northville closed Main Street and part of Center Street and created this district where you can go from one restaurant to another. You can carry wine, beer, drinks, whatever. So I can go to Lucy and the Wolf and grab a cocktail. I can go down to, the Brown Dog Parlor and then grab some ice cream or a burger. All of those things, right? They're trying to look to rejuvenate and refocus in on the small businesses in downtown Northville. Now, two unintended consequences. One, it increased the traffic on Hill, High, Dubar, Dunlap, all of the streets around the historic district. And that increased traffic also meant that some of the residents didn't feel as safe for their children playing outside, plus the noise that actually came with it as well. And the parking, because people are starting to park at the residential areas. Like, there was a whole lot, kind of a mess to that. That's number one. Number two, there were businesses downtown that were negatively impacted, where if you had to get out of your car and walk ever so far to go to a kitchen shop, why not just go to the KSI in Livonia and just go park your car right up front near the door? I'm using that as an example, but I don't know that the kitchen shop that I cannot remember the name of in downtown Northville, which is very good, by the way, actually was part of that lawsuit. But there were several businesses. So there are pros and there are cons to this. So how the dust settled was a judge finally ruled after 2 years of litigation, the mayor, God, what is the mayor's name? That's terrible. I've met the guy multiple occasions. He's a third generation Northvillian. There we go. Mayor Brian Turnbull. That's who it is. So Mayor Brian Turnbull, a third generation Northvillian. This was kind of his idea he put forward to try to get a resurgence back into downtown Northville towards the end of COVID. Him and I actually did a nice walkabout together. It was very nice. He's a third generation Northvillian, which is kind of crazy to me. So he fought this in court himself for a very long time. The judge finally ruled that no, this Main Street and that portion of Center Street cannot be closed down indefinitely. You can only close it down during events. Okay, so last year what that looked like is it closed almost every Saturday night, but only Saturday night. Now, what they also found was that paying the overtime, it wasn't worth it, because all the restaurants would have to take all their chairs and their tables back out of the street every night. So that had to happen, or every Saturday night that had to happen. So this year, they're planning on closing down Main Street and Center Street starting Friday with a soft close around 3 or 4 o'clock, and then fully closed right through Monday at 7 a.m. So that way you've got that extended Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon dining outdoors. You can have the concerts and all those things without any traffic. So it feels more like a downtown. So Northville, interesting enough, is that downtown where it always feels like you're either coming or you're going. right? You're either driving into Northville or you're driving out of Northville. It's different than Plymouth. So Plymouth has Kellogg Park as the anchor in the middle, which is more of a triangle. And then around the park, you've got three sides of either a main art theater, a couple houses, or you've got like Campari's, or on the south side, you've got Bigalora, right? Things like that, right? So it feels almost like with Plymouth, you're being pushed into the middle, into the city center where the ice festival happens and the Christmas tree decorations happens, and all the Halloween scarecrows happen. With Northville, you don't get that kind of a vibe or a feeling because most of Northville's park, like Ford Park and whatnot, are kind of a little further out. So this was their kind of way to try to combat that for places like Rebecca's, so it gets more foot traffic, which, by the way, if you haven't been, is a great breakfast. And that's it, guys. I am so sorry about the technical issues and difficulties tonight. I did skip a whole lot, so I'm going to bring back some of those stories next week, of course. Thank you for sticking with me for literally a full hour on this live, and I will see you next week. The other thing we're going to be doing next week, guys, just so you're aware, is I was going to go over the history of the decline of the city of Detroit in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, which I'm going to actually bump to next week. I had a cool 5-minute thing kind of prepared for it. So come on in next week. I will be going over the history and the downfall of Detroit, and hint is not the riots. My name is Mike Perna, local real estate agent. Thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday.